The Galactic Concord had never taken humans particularly seriously. Earth was a late addition to the interstellar community, barely 2 centuries into faster-than-light travel when they encountered the sprawling alliance of species that had been traversing the stars for millennia. The established powers regarded humans with a mixture of patronizing tolerance and mild irritation. Innovative in their bureaucratic efficiency, perhaps, but technologically primitive, emotionally volatile, and lacking the genetic or cybernetic enhancements that most spacefaring civilizations considered basic prerequisites for advanced status. The Cthar Empire found humans particularly vexing. A militaristic, reptilian species with rigid hierarchical structures, the Cthar valued strength, discipline, and technological superiority above all else. They saw humans as noisy, inefficient primates who had somehow stumbled into FTL capabilities without properly earning their place among the stars. That the Concord had admitted Earth at all was, to Cthar sensibilities, an unfortunate political concession that diluted the prestige of interstellar society. In diplomatic chambers and private communications, Cthar representatives barely bothered to mask their contempt, treating human ambassadors as children playing at politics. The Cthar military regarded Earth's defense forces as a collection of museum pieces, quaint, obsolete, and ultimately irrelevant to the true balance of power in the galaxy. Which is why what happened at the Xylos asteroid belt remained, for years afterward, so utterly incomprehensible to them. But let us begin at the beginning. The research vessel Stardust Wanderer represented the pinnacle of Earth's civilian scientific exploration program. A sleek, elegant craft stretching nearly half a kilometer from bow to stern, it housed laboratories, hydroponics gardens, and living quarters for its crew of 300 researchers, engineers, and their families. It was a multi-generational mission, designed for decades of independent operation, carrying Earth's brightest minds to study the Helix Nebula, a stellar nursery rich in exotic elements and unusual spatial phenomena. The nebula lay at the far edge of Earth's recognized exploration zone, close to a disputed region that the Cthar had recently begun to claim as their sphere of influence. The Stardust Wanderer carried proper Concord registry and identification, regularly broadcasting its civilian scientific status on all standard frequencies as per interstellar protocols. Its mission had been officially logged with the Concord Exploration Bureau, with copies forwarded to all neighboring powers, including the Cthar Empire. It carried minimal defensive systems, just enough to deflect space debris and small meteoroids. Standard procedure for a research vessel. Life aboard the Stardust Wanderer had settled into comfortable rhythms over the first 3 years of its journey. Dr. Eleanor Waters, the mission's lead xenobiologist, had just celebrated her daughter's 6th birthday in the ship's central atrium, a multi-story space filled with earth plants and small animals that served as both ecological research laboratory and recreation area. The party had featured handmade decorations, synthesized cake, with real sugar, a rare luxury, and a puppet show performed by off-duty engineering staff. In the hydroponics section, technician Sanjay Mehta was teaching a class of 12 children about the cultivation of modified rice varieties that thrived in the ship's artificial gravity. The youngest children giggled as they squished their fingers into the hydrogel growing medium, while the older ones carefully measured nutrient levels and recorded growth rates in their educational tablets. Captain Thomas Reyes sat in his quarters, recording a message for his grandchildren back on Earth. He joined the mission at age 58, knowing he might never see Earth again, but the opportunity to lead humanity's most ambitious scientific expedition had been worth the sacrifice. He showed the camera a small crystalline formation he'd taken from the geology lab, with permission, of course, that seemed to change color depending on the angle of observation. "Your grandmother would have loved this," he said, smiling at the memory of his wife, gone 5 years now. "She always said space would be full of beautiful things we couldn't imagine." In the quantum physics lab, Dr. Asaka Nakamura and her team were analyzing data from their latest probe of the nebula's outer reaches. The readings showed unusual gravitational fluctuations that couldn't be explained by conventional models. Asaka was excited, This could be evidence of the theoretical microsingularities her department had been searching for, phenomena that might revolutionize humanity's understanding of quantum gravity. None of them noticed when the Cathar battle cruiser, Indomitable Claw, dropped out of FTL at the edge of their sensor range. None of them knew they had less than 20 minutes to live. Commander Scifistories was young for his position, having attained command through a combination of family connections, genuine tactical brilliance, and a ruthless willingness to eliminate rivals. At 42 standard cycles, he was nearly a century younger than most Cathar ship commanders, and he burned with the need to prove himself worthy of his rapid advancement. When his sensors detected the human vessel near the contested boundary of Cathar-claimed space, he saw opportunity. His superiors had been looking for excuses to push back against what they viewed as human encroachment. A clear message needed to be sent. "Sensors, report," he ordered, his clawed hand tapping impatiently on the arm of his command chair. "Vessel identified as Earth Registry, civilian classification," reported his sensor officer. "Broadcasting Concord scientific mission credentials. Convenient cover for espionage," Scifistories remarked, mandibles clicking in annoyance. "They test our patience with these transparent provocations." "Sir, Concord protocols require," began his second-in-command, a more experienced officer named Varex. "I know the protocols," Scifistories snapped. "I also know our mandate to secure Cathar interests against infiltration. That ship is well within the buffer zone we established in our last territorial declaration. The declaration that has not yet been ratified by the Concord," Varex noted quietly. Scifistories' neck frills flared in irritation. "Your caution is noted, second. Now target their propulsion systems. We will disable the vessel and board it for inspection." "Targeting, Commander," acknowledged the weapons officer. On the main display, the elegant form of the Stardust Wanderer grew larger as they approached. Scifistories studied it with narrowed eyes, noting the lack of obvious weapons emplacements or military-grade shielding. Just a soft, vulnerable human vessel, ripe for a lesson in respect. At the last moment, as his weapons officer awaited the final command to fire, something shifted in Scifistories' thinking. A disabled ship would mean prisoners, explanations, Concord investigations. Messy, politically complicated, but an unfortunate accident, a ship that simply disappeared in a dangerous, unstable region of space. "Adjust targeting," he ordered abruptly. "Full offensive barrage. Aim to destroy." Varex's head snapped up in shock. "Commander, that's a civilian vessel. The Concord will do nothing without evidence." Scifistories cut him off. "And there will be no evidence. Execute the order." The Indomitable Claw fired its main particle cannons without warning. The first salvo tore through the Stardust Wanderer's minimal shields as if they were tissue paper, shearing off the entire port section of the vessel. Atmosphere vented violently into space, carrying with it equipment, research materials, and bodies, dozens of them, flash frozen in the vacuum, faces locked in expressions of surprise rather than fear. There hadn't been time for fear. The second salvo targeted the ship's central core, rupturing its power systems and triggering a cascade of secondary explosions. The vessel broke apart, fragments spinning away in all directions, some still glowing from the energy of the attack. In the final moments, as emergency systems failed and the command center depressurized, Communications Officer Maya Rodriguez managed to activate the black box emergency transmitter. The ship's final sensor data, including visuals of the attacking vessel and its weapon signatures, compressed into a tight beam transmission aimed at the nearest Concord relay station. The transmission was incomplete, cut off as the power failed completely, but it was enough. The Indomitable Claw performed a cursory scan of the debris field, confirming total destruction. Commander Scifistories ordered a brief, almost perfunctory report to be logged. Unidentified vessel destroyed after failing to respond to hailing and behaving erratically in Cathar security zone. No mention was made of the clearly broadcast identity or the civilian nature of the target. For the Cathar, it was an unremarkable incident, already fading from importance as the indomitable Claw returned to its patrol route. For Earth, it was about to become the spark that revealed a fire no one in the galaxy had imagined humans capable of igniting. The partial transmission from the Stardust Wanderer reached Earth 3 weeks later. Within hours, the fractured images of destruction and the unmistakable silhouette of a Cthar military vessel had spread across every communication channel on the planet and its colonies. The public reaction was incandescent with grief and rage. 300 lives, scientists, engineers, children, snuffed out without warning or provocation. Demonstrations formed outside Cthar diplomatic compounds. Military recruitment centers were flooded with volunteers. Political leaders faced deafening demands for immediate, devastating retaliation. Yet the official response from Earth's government was strangely muted. A formal request for explanation was filed with the Cthar Empire through Concord diplomatic channels. When the Cthar responded with their fabricated account and refused further discussion, Earth simply filed a protest and requested a Concord investigation, a process that would take months, if not years, to complete with no guarantee of justice. The apparent passivity shocked and infuriated the Earth public. It befuddled Concord observers, who had expected at minimum a military alert or economic sanctions. And it confirmed to the Cthar what they had always believed about humans: ultimately weak, unwilling to defend their own when faced with superior force. None of them understood that Earth's true response was already underway, hidden beneath layers of secrecy that even most human governments weren't privy to. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice sheet, in a facility that didn't exist on any official record, 12 men and women sat around a circular table. The room was Spartan. White walls, no windows, no decorations save for a single emblem on the floor, a shield depicting Earth cradled within a protective wing. This was the Aegis Council, the most classified organization in human history, tasked with the ultimate protection of human interests in a galaxy that largely viewed them as irrelevant. "The Cthar believe we're toothless," said Admiral Helena Vasquez, her lined face grim in the harsh light. "Their refusal to acknowledge responsibility is calculated. They're testing our resolve. And the public believes we have none," added Director Omar Khoury of Intelligence. "Our restraint is being interpreted as weakness, both at home and abroad." At the head of the table, Chairperson Kai Wong remained silent, fingers steepled before him. At 78, he had overseen the Aegis Council for 20 years, guiding its secret development of technologies deemed too advanced or dangerous to be acknowledged publicly. The Concord had strict regulations about certain avenues of research, regulations Earth officially abided by, while the Aegis Council pushed quietly beyond them. "The Chimera Protocol is ready," said Dr. Eliana Tesfaye, head of research. The statement fell into the room like a stone into still water. No one spoke for several moments. Chimera wasn't a weapon, not in the conventional sense. It was something far more profound, the culmination of decades of research into the fundamental structure of space-time itself. Based on theories most other species considered either impossible or too dangerous to pursue, Chimera represented humanity's secret quantum leap beyond conventional physics. It didn't manipulate energy or matter as traditional weapons did. It manipulated the very constants of reality, creating localized bubbles where the normal rules of physics simply changed. "We've never deployed it at this scale," cautioned Dr. Tesfaye. "The simulations are promising, but real-world variables could introduce unpredictability." "What are the risks?" asked Wong. "Minimal collateral damage, if our targeting is precise. The effect is highly localized. But the psychological impact," she trailed off, "will be exactly what we need," finished Admiral Vasquez. "The Cthar respect only superior force. We need to demonstrate capabilities they cannot comprehend, let alone counter." Wong nodded slowly. "The question becomes, what target sends the clearest message while minimizing loss of life? We will not respond to the slaughter of our civilians by becoming murderers ourselves." "I have a proposal," said Strategic Director Wei Zhang, activating the holographic display in the center of the table. A complex network of glowing points appeared, interconnected by pulsing lines. The Kthar FDL relay network in the Xylos asteroid belt. It's their primary strategic communication hub for this entire sector, controlling military deployments across 12 star systems, including the one where we lost the Stardust Wanderer. The display zoomed in, showing massive installations built into and around asteroids, connected by energy tethers. The entire network is automated, Zhang continued. Minimal crew presence, mostly maintenance personnel, and a small security contingent. Total sentient population under 50, all military. No civilians. And the strategic impact? Asked Wang. Devastating. Without these relays, the Kthar would lose effective FTL communication and navigation capabilities across the sector. Their military response time would increase from minutes to weeks. They'd be effectively blind and mute, strategically speaking. Admiral Vasquez leaned forward, studying the display intently. The relays are heavily defended by automated systems, energy shields, point defense arrays, sensor grids. A conventional attack would require a massive fleet and would certainly trigger full-scale war. But Chimera bypasses all of that, said Dr. Tesfaye softly. The relays wouldn't be destroyed. They would simply cease to exist in normal space-time. The implications hung heavy in the air. What they were contemplating wasn't just a retaliatory strike. It was a revelation of capabilities that would fundamentally alter how humanity was perceived in the galactic community. The Nyx is our only platform capable of delivering Chimera at this range, said Admiral Vasquez. Commander Taylor and her crew have trained for this contingency. They can be ready in 48 hours. Wang looked around the table, meeting each council member's eyes in turn. We all understand what this means. Once this capability is revealed, there's no going back. We will face questions, accusations, possibly fears that we never faced before. The Kthar may escalate rather than back down. With respect, Chairperson, said Director Corey, they've already escalated by destroying an unarmed scientific vessel without provocation. If we do nothing meaningful, it will happen again. And again. Wang nodded slowly. Very well. By unanimous consent of this council, I authorize deployment of Chimera Protocol against the Xylos relay network, with Commander Taylor to execute with all possible precision to minimize loss of life. He paused, his expression solemn. May history judge us kindly for what we are about to do. The stealth vessel Nyx resembled no other ship in Earth's known fleet. Just under 200 meters long, its hull was composed of materials that absorbed rather than reflected sensor scans. Its propulsion system generated no traditional exhaust signature, instead creating microscopic folds in space that pulled the ship forward without obvious energy emissions. Its very existence was classified beyond top secret. The few official records that acknowledged it at all described it merely as an experimental deep space probe that had been lost in an unfortunate accident during early testing. Commander Sophia Taylor stood on the bridge, hands clasped behind her back as she watched her crew prepare for the most significant mission in human history. At 38, she was relatively young for such a command, but her particular combination of astrophysics expertise and tactical brilliance had made her the obvious choice to lead the Chimera deployment platform. Final checks on the Chimera probes are complete, reported Lieutenant Gabriel Santos, her chief science officer. All 17 devices are functioning at optimal parameters. Navigation has plotted our approach vector, added Lieutenant Commander Aisha Okafor from the helm. We'll use the dust clouds around the Cygnus X-3 system for initial cover, then make the final approach through the asteroid field itself. Kthar's sensors will have difficulty distinguishing us from natural background radiation. Taylor nodded, satisfaction evident in her expression despite the gravity of their mission. And our exit strategy? 3 alternatives plotted, depending on detection status, Okafor replied. Primary plan assumes complete mission success without detection. Which it will be, Santos added with quiet confidence. They won't see us coming, and they won't understand what happened even after we're gone. Taylor allowed herself a small smile. Don't get cocky, Lieutenant. This is still the most complex operation we've ever attempted, against the most dangerous adversary humanity has faced. She turned to her communications officer. Status of the Cthar fleet deployments? No significant changes, Commander, replied Lieutenant Lin. Their primary battle groups remain on standard patrol routes. No indication they're expecting trouble in the Xylos sector. Good. Now remember, people, we are not at war, not officially. This is a proportional response to an unprovoked attack on a civilian target. We demonstrate our capability and resolve without triggering a wider conflict. Precision is everything. The officers nodded in understanding. Each had been specially selected not just for their skills, but for their psychological profiles, steady under pressure, morally grounded, capable of maintaining absolute secrecy. As far as their personnel records showed, none of them even existed anymore. Their families believed they were assigned to classified research projects, receiving regular, pre-recorded communications that gave no hint of their true activities. Prepare for FDL transition, Taylor ordered. Operation Righteous Echo begins now. The Nix slipped into faster-than-light travel with none of the energy flare typical of conventional drives. Where other ships tore holes in space-time, the Nix simply sidestepped, moving through quantum dimensions that other species hadn't even theorized yet. It was one of many technologies developed by the Aegis Council that put human capabilities far beyond what the Concord believed possible. The journey to the Xylos asteroid belt would take just over 3 days. During that time, the crew ran constant simulations, fine-tuning their approach and deployment strategies. The Chimera devices required precise positioning. Each one needed to be within exact parameters of its target relay to ensure the space-time manipulation affected only the intended structures. On the 3rd day, as they approached the outer boundary of Cthar space, Commander Taylor called her senior staff to the briefing room for a final review. "This is what we're facing," she said, activating a holographic display of the Xylos network. 17 major relay stations, each controlling FDL communications and navigation for specific sectors of Cthar space. The network is defended by automated systems. No capital ships are permanently stationed there, but patrol vessels make regular sweeps. The display highlighted the defensive systems: energy shields, sensor arrays, automated weapon platforms. Formidable by conventional standards, but irrelevant to their mission. "Our approach will bring us through the densest part of the asteroid field here," she continued, tracing a path with her finger. "The natural interference will help mask our signature. We'll deploy the Chimera probes in sequence, targeting each relay simultaneously to prevent any warning being transmitted." Lieutenant Santos stepped forward. "The probes will take approximately 12 minutes to reach their positions. Once in place, they'll activate on a synchronized signal from the Nix. The Chimera effect will be instantaneous. And to be clear," Taylor said, her tone grave, "once initiated, there is no reversal. The relays will exist in a pocket of altered space-time indefinitely. For all practical purposes, from the perspective of normal space, they will simply cease to exist, along with anyone who happens to be on them," added Lieutenant Commander Okafor quietly. Taylor nodded. "Which is why our intelligence on staff rotations is critical. We've timed this operation to coincide with the minimum personnel presence. Current estimates suggest fewer than 30 Cthar will be on the relays at time of deployment. All military, all complicit in their empire's actions." She paused. "I don't take those lies lightly, but consider the alternative. A conventional assault would cost thousands of lives on both sides and almost certainly escalate to full-scale war." No one argued the point. They had all wrestled with the ethical implications of their mission and reached the same conclusion. This was the least bloody option among bad choices. "We deploy in 6 hours, Taylor concluded. "Get some rest while you can." Dismissed. The approach to the Xylos asteroid belt was the most nerve-wracking phase of the mission. The Nix moved at minimal power, its stealth systems working overtime to mask any detectable signature. They navigated through fields of tumbling rock and ice, sometimes with clearances of less than 100 meters between the ship's hull and jagged fragments that could tear through them if their calculations were even slightly off. On the bridge, Commander Taylor watched the sensor displays with unwavering focus. They showed the Cathar patrol ships following their predictable routes, automated defense systems scanning for threats in expected patterns. None gave any indication that they detected the ghost ship sliding through their midst. First patrol vessel passing at 200,000 kilometers, reported Lieutenant Lin from sensors. No change in their scan patterns. Taylor nodded. Maintain course and speed. Lieutenant Santos, begin preparation for probe deployment. In the ship's deployment bay, the 17 Chimera probes were being prepared for launch. Each was surprisingly small, barely larger than a human fist, containing technology that would have been unrecognizable even to most advanced physicists of Earth, let alone other species. They didn't contain explosives or energy weapons, but rather specialized quantum field generators capable of altering the fundamental constants of physics in a precisely defined area. Patrol ship changing course, Lynn announced suddenly, tension evident in her voice. They're moving toward the Gamma 3 sector, directly across our projected path. Taylor's expression remained calm, but her mind raced through options. Time to intercept. At current speeds, they'll cross our position in approximately 7 minutes. Lieutenant Commander Okafor, adjust course by 20 degrees starboard. Reduce speed to 1/4. We'll let them pass ahead of us. Aye, Commander. Adjusting course. The Nyx slowed and turned slightly, now hiding in the shadow of a larger asteroid. On the display, the Cathar patrol vessel continued along its new heading, oblivious to their presence. They're running a standard sweep pattern, Lynn noted. Nothing to suggest they detected us. Likely just a random course adjustment. The bridge crew collectively released a breath they hadn't realized they were holding. The patrol ship passed nearly 500,000 kilometers away, its sensors never penetrating the Nyx's stealth systems. Resume course and speed. Taylor ordered once the threat had passed. Lieutenant Santos, status of the probes? Final calibrations complete, Commander. All probes ready for deployment. Very well. Taylor stood, straightening her uniform in an unconscious gesture. Bring us to deployment coordinates. It's time. The Nyx maneuvered into its final position, deep within the asteroid field, but with clear launch vectors to each of the 17 relay stations. The massive Cathar structures loomed on their visual displays, imposing technological marvels that controlled the Empire's military communications across a significant portion of their territory. Launching probes, Santos announced, his fingers dancing across his console. Deployment sequence initiated. One by one, the tiny Chimera devices were expelled from the Nyx, their propulsion systems barely more than whispers against the background radiation of space. Each probe immediately cloaked itself, becoming virtually undetectable as it accelerated toward its target. All probes deployed successfully, Santos confirmed. Estimated time to position, 11 minutes, 40 seconds. Now came the most agonizing part of the mission, waiting. The crew of the Nyx watched in tense silence as the probes made their way to their destinations. Each passing minute felt like an hour, the only sound on the bridge the soft beeping of monitoring equipment. Probe 7 is experiencing trajectory variance, Santos reported suddenly. Compensating. Correction successful. Taylor nodded, her expression revealing nothing of her inner tension. Time to position. 3 minutes remaining. On the main display, they could see the Cathar relay network continuing its normal operations, completely unaware of what was about to happen. Occasional flashes of light indicated FTL communications being received and transmitted. Maintenance drones moved around the structures like tiny insects around a hive. Proximity alert, Lynn called out, her voice sharp with alarm. Cathar automated sensor drone at coordinates 227, Mark 43, on course to intersect with probe 12. Taylor reacted instantly. Initiate countermeasures pattern Delta. From the Nyx, A carefully calibrated burst of radiation was directed toward a specific point in space near the sensor drone. The energy pattern mimicked a micrometeoroid impact on an asteroid, creating a brief but intense radiation signature that would attract the drone's attention. Drone is altering course to investigate the false signal, Lynn reported, relief evident in her voice. Probe 12 continuing on course, undetected. Well done, Taylor acknowledged. Status of remaining probes? All proceeding as planned, Santos confirmed. 30 seconds to position. The final seconds ticked down in pregnant silence. On the bridge of the Nyx, Commander Taylor stood perfectly still, her expression betraying nothing of the momentous weight of what they were about to do. All probes in position, Santos finally announced. Awaiting activation command. Taylor took a deep breath, knowing this moment would be recorded in history, if classified history, as the point where humanity revealed its true technological capabilities to the galaxy. Activate Chimera Protocol, she ordered, her voice steady and clear. Execute. Santos pressed a sequence of commands into his console. Activation signal sent. Chimera Protocol executing now. For a breathless moment, nothing seemed to happen. The Cthar relay stations continued to function as before, alien energy signatures pulsing through their structures. Then, without warning, without sound, without any visible energy discharge or explosion, the impossible occurred. The relays simply vanished. One moment they existed. Massive structures of metal and energy, the product of centuries of Cthar engineering, and the next they were gone, leaving behind only empty space where they had stood. No debris, no radiation surge, no shockwave. Just absence, as if they had never been there at all. Chimera effect confirmed, Santos reported, his voice barely above a whisper. All 17 targets, removed from normal space-time. The bridge crew stared at their displays in awe, despite having known what to expect. Seeing it actually happen, seeing major installations simply cease to exist without any conventional signs of destruction, was something else entirely. Sensor analysis? Taylor asked, breaking the spell. Lynn, check her readings. No detectable Chimera field leakage. Effect precisely contained within target. Parameters. Surrounding space appears completely unaffected. Casualties? This was the question Taylor dreaded most. Santos consulted his data. Based on life sign readings prior to activation, estimated 28 Cthar personnel were on the relays at time of deployment. 28 lives. Taylor took a moment to silently acknowledge them. Enemy combatants, yes, but still lived shortened by her order. She would carry that responsibility, even as she knew the alternative would have been far bloodier. Cthar response? She asked, turning to communications. Massive surge in communications traffic from surrounding systems, Lynn reported. Multiple distress signals. Emergency protocols being activated. Their command structure appears to be in chaos. As expected, Taylor nodded. They have no frame of reference for what just happened. Lieutenant Commander Okafor, execute extraction plan Alpha. Let's go home. The Nyx turned away from the scene, its stealth system still rendering it virtually undetectable amid the confusion now spreading through Cthar space. They glided silently through the asteroid field, leaving behind empty voids where the heart of Cthar military communications had stood just minutes before. No one on the bridge spoke for several minutes, each processing the enormity of what they had just accomplished. They had not fired a single conventional weapon, yet they had delivered a strategic blow that would cripple Cthar military capabilities across multiple star systems for months, if not years. More significantly, they had demonstrated a technological capability that would send shockwaves through the Concord when it eventually became known. Humans, though supposedly primitive newcomers, had just wielded power on a level that even the most advanced species would find difficult to comprehend, let alone counter. Message from Aegis Command, Lynn announced finally. Text only. It reads, Righteous Echo confirmed successful. Return to base. Well done, Nyx. Taylor allowed herself a small smile. Acknowledge receipt. Inform them we're coming home. As the Nyx accelerated away from Cthar space, Preparing to enter its unique form of FTL travel, Taylor gazed one last time at the sensor display, showing the emptiness they had created. "For the Stardust Wanderer," she said softly, before turning away to lead her crew home. The impact of Operation Righteous Echo cascaded through Kthar military and political systems like a tsunami. The first reports were met with disbelief. Relay stations don't simply disappear. There must be a sensor malfunction, a communications error, perhaps a coordinated cyber attack, creating false readings. But as confirmation came in from multiple sources, including ships dispatched to the Xylos belt, the incomprehensible truth became unavoidable. The relays were gone. Not destroyed. Destruction left debris, radiation, some evidence of what had happened. These installations had simply ceased to exist, leaving behind nothing but empty space. In the Kthar High Command Center on their homeworld, emergency sessions convened continuously for 3 days. Military leaders, scientific advisors, and political figures argued vehemently about what had happened and who was responsible. "It must be some form of dimensional technology," insisted Chief Scientist Vurex, his scales pale with stress. "The relays have been shifted into another plane of existence." "Impossible," countered Fleet Admiral Krozek. "No known species possesses such capability. The energy requirements alone would be—" "Clearly," Vurex interrupted, "our understanding of what is possible has been proven inadequate. The timing cannot be coincidental," noted Security Director Thraz, her voice cold with fury. "Shortly after we neutralized a human vessel near the disputed territories, our strategic communications network is removed. The humans are responsible." "The humans?" scoffed Admiral Krozek. "Their technology is generations behind ours. They lack the scientific foundation even to conceive of such weapons, let alone deploy them." "Then explain what happened," Thraz challenged. "Explain how our most secure installations vanished without a trace, without warning, without any defense system even registering an attack." No one could. In the Kthar Emperor's private chambers, an even more somber meeting took place. Emperor Zakerval, who had ruled the empire for over a century, listened in silence as his closest advisors presented what little they knew. "The military impact is severe, Your Eminence," reported Supreme Commander Drezkayar. "Without the Xylos network, our forces across 17 systems are operating on local communications only. Coordination is impossible. Response times to any threat would be measured in weeks rather than minutes." "In replacement of these facilities?" the Emperor asked. "A minimum of 8 standard months to restore basic functionality. 2 years for full capacity." Emperor Zakerval's inner eyelids closed briefly, a gesture of deep contemplation among his species. "And what are the humans? Have they made any statement claiming responsibility?" "None, Your Eminence. Their official channels continue to express only deep concern over the destruction of their research vessel and hope for a full Concord investigation. Playing innocent while they strike at us with weapons we cannot comprehend," his security director Thraz. "It is an unacceptable provocation. We must respond with overwhelming force, demonstrate that such treachery will not." "And if they can do to our homeworld what they did to the relays," interrupted the Emperor, his voice deceptively soft, "shall we risk the heart of our empire against an enemy whose capabilities we clearly do not understand?" The chamber fell silent. The implication was staggering. If the humans could remove strategic military installations without firing a shot, what else might they be capable of? "We need more information," the Emperor decided finally. "No retaliatory action until we understand what we are facing. Increase intelligence gathering on Earth and its colonies. And," he paused, the admission clearly painful to him, "dispatch a diplomatic envoy to their representatives at the Concord. Frame it as an interest in discussing the regrettable loss of their research vessel." Appeasement. Thraz could not hide her shock. "Prudence," corrected the Emperor. "We have clearly underestimated these humans. I will not compound that error by rushing into conflict with an adversary whose true strength remains unknown to us." At the Galactic Concord headquarters, The mysterious disappearance of the Cathar relay network caused almost as much confusion as it had within the Cathar Empire itself. Emergency sessions of the Security Council were called, with representatives from all major powers demanding information. The Cathar representative, Subcommander Vrekinar, struggled to maintain his species' characteristic composure as he addressed the council. This unprovoked act of aggression against Cathar sovereign installations cannot go unanswered, he declared, neck frills flaring with barely controlled rage. We have clear evidence linking this attack to Earth forces. Evidence which you have yet to share with this council. Observed the Mithridian delegate calmly, her crystalline form refracting light as she shifted position. The Mithridians, an ancient species of silicon-based life forms, were known for their dispassionate analysis and long view of galactic politics. The method of the attack itself is signature enough, Vrekinar insisted. Who else has been developing prohibited dimensional technologies? Who else had motive after the regrettable incident involving their wayward research vessel? All eyes turned to the human representative, Ambassador Julia Chenmyers. A slender woman in her 60s with silver-streaked black hair and the deceptively tranquil demeanor of a veteran diplomat, she had served as Earth's voice on the Concorde for nearly 15 years. Earth categorically denies any involvement in whatever incident the Cathar Empire is experiencing, she said, her voice calm and measured. We continue to await justice for the unprovoked destruction of the Stardust Wanderer and the murder of its 300 civilian crew members, including 74 children. Convenient denial, hissed Vrekinar, while your secret weapons make a mockery of Concorde technological protocols. Ambassador Chenmyers spread her hands in a gesture of openness. The Concorde is welcome to inspect any Earth facility they wish. We have nothing to hide. Perhaps if the Cathar were equally transparent about the destruction of our research vessel. The discussion dissolved into accusations and counter-accusations, with other species representatives interjecting with their own concerns and theories. Eventually, the Concorde security director, a Jakku named Sentinel Prime K-Arvakon, called for order. The Jakku were one of the foundational species of the Concorde, respected for their balanced approach to galactic security and their unmatched strategic insight. Resembling tall, slender humanoids with iridescent skin and elongated cranial structures, they were known to see patterns where others saw only chaos. This council will dispatch independent investigation teams to both the site of the Cathar network disappearance and the last known coordinates of the human vessel Stardust Wanderer, K-Arvakon announced. Until these investigations are complete, I urge all parties to refrain from further accusations or actions that might escalate tensions. After the session adjourned, K-Arvakon approached Ambassador Chenmyers in a private corridor. An interesting performance, Ambassador, the Jakku said quietly, multifaceted eyes studying her with unsettling intensity. Not a performance. Sentinel Prime, she replied evenly. Earth genuinely had nothing to do with whatever technical difficulties the Cathar are experiencing. Of course, K-Arvakon nodded, a gesture the Jakku had adopted from human diplomatic protocols. Just as I'm certain the Cathar had nothing to do with your unfortunate research vessel. How fascinating that these coincidences should occur in such close proximity. Chenmyers said nothing, maintaining a diplomatic smile. You know, the Jakku continued conversationally, the Mithridians once theorized that space-time could be selectively altered through manipulation of quantum substratum fields. They abandoned the research as too dangerous and potentially destabilizing to cosmic equilibrium. A pause. I've always found humans remarkably persistent in pursuing what others consider impossible or inadvisable. We're an inquisitive species, Chenmyers replied carefully. Indeed, K-Arvakon's expression was unreadable. One wonders what other inquiries Earth has been pursuing beyond the Concorde's awareness. As I said, the Concorde is welcome to inspect any Earth facility. Any acknowledged Earth facility, yes. The Jakku inclined its head slightly. I believe our species may have misjudged yours, Ambassador. You present yourselves as diplomatic bureaucratic, almost passive. Yet there is something else beneath the surface, something quite remarkable. With that cryptic observation, the Sentinel Prime moved away, leaving Ambassador Chimires to wonder just how much the Jakku had deduced about Earth's true capabilities. Back on Earth, the Aegis Council reconvened to assess the aftermath of Operation Righteous Echo. The mood was one of cautious satisfaction, tempered by the gravity of what they had revealed to the galaxy, or at least what they had hinted at. The Kthar are in disarray, reported Director Corey. Their military communications across 17 systems have been reduced to light-speed transmissions and physical couriers. Their response capability has been effectively paralyzed. And their political reaction? Asked Chairperson Wong. Exactly as predicted. Initial belligerence, followed by uncertainty and cautious restraint. They've requested diplomatic talks through the Concord, ostensibly about the Stardust Wanderer incident. Admiral Vasquez nodded with grim satisfaction. They're afraid. They don't understand what happened or how we did it. But they know it was us, and they're afraid of what else we might be capable of. The Jakku suspects something as well, added Wong. Ambassador Chimires reports that Sentinel Prime, Kai-Arvicon all, but stated they believe we possess technology beyond what we've acknowledged to the Concord. The Jakku have always been perceptive, Dr. Tesfaye noted, but they're also pragmatic. If they suspect we have capabilities that could destabilize the balance of power, they'll want to understand them before taking any official position. Which gives us an opening, said Strategic Director Zhang. Not just with the Kthar, but potentially with the Jakku and other major powers. We've demonstrated that humans are not the technological primitives they assumed. Now we negotiate from a position of newfound respect. Wong nodded slowly. The objective was never dominance, but equality. To ensure that what happened to the Stardust Wanderer never happens again to any human vessel. And the Chimera technology? Asked Dr. Tesfaye. Do we acknowledge it? Not yet. Wong decided after a moment's reflection. We neither confirm nor deny. Let the galaxy speculate. The uncertainty itself is a strategic asset, perhaps more valuable than the technology itself. The others nodded in agreement. Earth would maintain its official position of non-involvement in the Xylos incident, while quietly preparing for a new era of interstellar relations, one where humans would no longer be dismissed or underestimated. In the weeks that followed, subtle shifts occurred throughout the Concord. Species that had previously ignored human representatives now sought them out for private conversations. Kthar officials, once openly contemptuous, became scrupulously formal and correct in their dealings with Earth diplomats. Trade delegations from minor powers increasingly included Earth in their negotiations, often seeking preferential agreements. And in the darker corners of interstellar politics, intelligence services of a dozen species scrambled to reassess their understanding of human capabilities, revising threat assessments upward and recommending increased surveillance of Earth activities. 3 months after Operation Righteous Echo, the crew of the Nyx gathered in a secure facility beneath the Olympus Mons colony on Mars. They had been kept isolated since their return, partly for security and partly to give them time to process what they had done. Now, they were being formally recognized for their service in a ceremony that would never be recorded in any public archive. Commander Taylor stood at attention as Chairperson Wong pinned the Aegis Medallion, a decoration unknown to the public, on her uniform. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, I commend you and your crew for your impeccable execution of Operation Righteous Echo, Wong said formally. Your actions have rewritten our position in the galactic community and ensured the security of human interests for generations to come. Taylor accepted the honor with a crisp salute, but her expression remained solemn. Thank you, sir. But if I may speak freely? Wong nodded permission. The 28 Kthar personnel who were on those relays. We know what happened to the stations themselves. They exist in isolated bubbles of altered space-time. But what happened to the people? Are they conscious in there? Trapped? Wong exchanged a glance with Dr. Tesfaye, who stepped forward to address the commander's concern. The Chimera effect alters fundamental constants beyond what can sustain organic life, she explained gently. Based on our models, consciousness would have ceased within microseconds of the transition. They experienced no pain, no awareness of what was happening. One moment they existed, and the next, they simply didn't. Taylor nodded, some of the tension leaving her shoulders. Thank you, Doctor. That's a small comfort. Your concern honors you, Commander, said Wong. Never lose the humanity. It's what separates us from those who would destroy a civilian research vessel without a second thought. After the ceremony, Wong took Taylor aside for a private word. You should know that the Nix is being recommissioned for a new role, he told her. Not as a weapon, but as our insurance policy. Your ship will maintain constant readiness, always prepared to deploy Chimera if absolutely necessary, but its very existence will hopefully ensure that such necessity never arises again. Deterrence through capability, Taylor nodded, understanding. Precisely. The Cthar and others respect strength above all else. Now, they know we have it, though they don't understand its exact nature. That uncertainty will keep them cautious. Wong paused, looking contemplative. Throughout history, when a technologically superior force encountered a less advanced one, the results were rarely good for the latter. Earth entered the galactic stage at a disadvantage, and we've been scrambling to catch up ever since. But we didn't just catch up, Taylor observed. In some ways, we've leaped ahead. In very specific ways, Wong corrected. We're still behind in many conventional technologies. But yes, Project Chimera represents a different path, one other species considered too dangerous or impossible to pursue. It's given us an equalizer and a responsibility, added Taylor soberly. Indeed, one I trust you understand fully. Wong extended his hand, which Taylor shook firmly. The Nix and her capabilities remain our most closely guarded secret, Commander. But know that your actions have already changed how humanity is perceived among the stars. The Cthar will never again mistake our diplomatic patience for weakness. 6 months after the Xylos incident, Defense Minister Greshkar of the Cthar Empire stood in his private chambers, studying a holographic map of Cthar territory. The section representing the Xylos network remained conspicuously dark. 17 points of strategic failure in what had once been an impregnable communication system. Engineers have been working around the clock to rebuild the network, but progress was painfully slow. The technology required was extremely specialized, the resources scarce. More troubling still, they had no guarantee that whatever had removed the original network wouldn't simply do the same to its replacement. A soft tone announced the arrival of Fleet Admiral Krazek, who entered with a formal salute. The diplomatic envoy has returned from Earth, the Admiral reported without preamble. And Greshkar prompted, not turning from his map. Their findings are disturbing. Earth makes no admission regarding Xylos, of course, but our envoy reports a strange confidence among their officials. Not arrogance, not threat, simply the quiet certainty of species that no longer fears us. Did they obtain any intelligence on the weapon used against our relays? Nothing concrete, but multiple sources suggest Earth has been conducting classified research into dimensional physics for decades. Research far beyond what the Concord believes them capable of. Greshkar's scales rippled in agitation. And the incident with their research vessel, the Stardust Wonder, Krazek shifted uncomfortably. Our investigation confirms it was destroyed by the cruiser Indomitable Claw under Commander Skizistar's orders. The vessel was clearly marked as a civilian research mission, broadcasting proper Concord credentials. The attack was unprovoked. A heavy silence fell between them. We made a terrible mistake, Greshkar said finally, his voice uncharacteristically subdued for a Cthar. Not just in attacking their ship, but in our fundamental assessment of the humans. We saw their diplomatic nature as weakness, their bureaucratic tendency as lack of imagination, their technological gaps as evidence of inferiority. Yet they somehow developed capability beyond anything in our understanding, Krazek noted, and used it with surgical precision against military targets only, despite our killing of their civilians. A restraint we would not have shown in their position, admitted Greshkar. The humans could have targeted our military shipyards, command centers, even populated worlds. Instead, they chose a demonstration that killed a minimal number of our people while crippling our strategic position. A warning, summarized Krozek. A warning we would be fools to ignore. Greshkar finally turned from the map. Issue new standing orders to all fleet commanders. Human vessels of any classification are to be given wide berth. Any incident involving Earth ships must be reported immediately to High Command. No hostile action is to be taken under any circumstances without direct authorization from the Emperor himself. Some will see this as capitulation, Krozek warned. Let them. I would rather suffer whispers of cowardice than be remembered as the minister who provoked a war we might not survive. Greshkar's inner eyelids closed briefly in contemplation. We have always defined ourselves by our strength, Admiral. Perhaps true wisdom lies in recognizing when we have encountered a power we do not yet understand. As the Admiral departed, Greshkar returned his gaze to the holographic map, to the 17 points of darkness where their arrogance had been answered with a precision that seemed almost godlike in its execution. The void where the Xylos network had been now represented something far more significant. The end of Kthar's supremacy and the beginning of a new, uncertain era in which humans could no longer be dismissed as irrelevant newcomers to the galactic stage. Throughout the vastness of space, other species watched and reassessed. The humans, those emotional, bureaucratic primates who had arrived late to the interstellar community, now inspired a new kind of respect tinged with healthy fear. Without firing a conventional shot, without launching fleets or making threats, they had fundamentally altered the balance of power. And as reports and analyses circulated among the intelligence services of a dozen worlds, a common theme emerged. Whatever the humans possessed, whatever they had done to the Kthar relays, it represented a level of scientific understanding that went beyond conventional physics. It suggested that humanity, despite its apparent technological gaps in some areas, had been quietly pursuing research paths that other species had deemed impossible, impractical, or too dangerous to explore. Most troubling of all to the established powers was the realization that they had never seen it coming. Humans had been dismissed, underestimated, even mocked, right up until the moment they demonstrated capabilities that defied explanation. The species that had seemed so transparent, so easy to read with their emotional displays and straightforward diplomacy, had concealed depths that no one had suspected. The stagnant backwater, it seemed, contained hidden currents of remarkable power and terrifying potential. And the galaxy would never look at Earth quite the same way again.